news out with interviews, breaking news, separate lies from the truth with the rumor crew. Follow your team from the draft through the playoffs, no layoff. We stay on the story, the payoff is 24/7 football at your fingertips. Watch, read, or listen. Blitz Analytics bringing it. BLITZALYTICS proudly presents Jack and George. Welcome to the Blitz. Welcome to the Blitz, y'all.
Welcome into the Blitz Breakdown, presented by BlitzLinux.com and sponsored by Key City Brewing. Drink, Rebel, Repeat. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't already. The BlitzLinux Podcast Network is on all podcast platforms. Oh, it's been a long day. It is election day. I sat in an election line for a couple hours and would have been there for a lot longer, and then they just had me cut to the front because of my name. It was pretty nice. I hope your team wins. Good luck. Good luck. That's America for you. And the whole world will not burn down. It will be okay, everybody. We will have a tomorrow. The sun will come out tomorrow. This is not the most depressing day. I know this is a very stressful day for all Americans. Everybody is very team-oriented here in the United States, and so they want their team to win. I hope your team wins. Good luck. Good luck. I know I voted, and I will keep that shit to my damn self. Anyways, we did have football. We had football yesterday. We had football last night, as a matter of fact, because, again, today is Tuesday the 3rd. When you listen to this, it'll be probably the 4th or the 5th, and this will be post-dated, but not outdated. That is for damn sure. We had the trade deadline happen. We had Monday Night Football. We had a great weekend of football altogether, which I will dive into in this short, about 30-minute segment of the Blitz Breakdown. And then we will be jumping into the happy hour shortly after this. So stay tuned. I hope you guys all enjoy. Without further ado, because my team played last night on primetime against one of the worst teams just in the league. And it was a game, though. I mean, what are you going to do? As much as you want to be upset, the New York Giants put it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers up until basically last quarter, up until the last time Tom Brady had the ball. They score. Giants come back. Questionable call at the end. I don't know if that happens to the Bucs, then I'm going to be upset. If I'm a Giants fan and that happens to me, I'm going to be upset. If it's the other side, as it is right now, and I'm looking at it as a Bucs fan, I'm like, the ball got there right about the same time. I mean, like, it's a bang-bang, tricky call. For if you guys did not see it, basically, Antoine Winfield Jr. is darting into the flat to go after Dion Lewis. Gets there literally, I mean, probably a tenth of a second, maybe like 0.2 of a second there before the ball does. He kind of does one of these, and the ball hits it. Kind of turns his head around a little bit, but not really. But not like to the point where he literally tackles Dion Lewis. Like nothing like egregious. I don't think it was an egregiously bad call. I don't think it was a great no call. I don't know. It's one of those things. It's kind of a half a dozen one, the other. You know, I'll take it though. As a Bucs fan, I will take it. But talked about this on the J.P. Peterson show just the other day. Or yesterday. This New York Giants team, and I know I'm gonna eat a little crow for this. They're pretty good defensively. They do have some pieces. Like defensively, they matched up with the Bucs very, very well. James Bradbury has basically batted 500 against Mike Evans. He's either held him under 60 yards or he's allowed him to go off. You know, it's been 50-50 throughout their career. But James Bradbury hadn't allowed a touchdown to Mike Evans since 2016, since his rookie season. So they have two stud, guys up front, two stud defensive tackles. So that was going to affect the run game. They have Blake Martinez, leads the league in tackles. You know, they was going to slow down the run game. So if you have Mike Evans being kind of halted, if you have the run game being halted, if you're down Chris Godwin, you're kind of down to, he threw, I don't know how many targets it was, 8 targets to Mickens, which is basically just their punt return and kick return specialist. You know, Tom Brady's always going to take what they gave him, but they did a great job at eliminating or slowing down Mike Evans and basically trying to eliminate him out of the game plan and taking away the run game and forcing him to throw to guys that weren't necessarily intended to be a part of the game plan. And that's what they did. And the Bucs, took what they could get And that is why, this team is so good under Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to win the games he's supposed to win. The games against, I was going to say Green Bay, but the big games against KC, the big games against New Orleans this next week, in the next 2 weeks, those are going to be the games that we'll see what the Bucs really are. But under Tom Brady, they are always going to beat the 1-6, the 1-7, the 2-5 teams. The sub 500 teams. Tom Brady is notorious for not letting them slip up. And the Bucs really did slip up this week. They believed the hype. They were drinking their own Kool-Aid. They were listening to ESPN. They were listening to NFL Network, hearing them talk about how great they are, how amazing this team is going to be, that this team's a shoo-in for the Super Bowl. And any team that hears that, and then any opposing team that hears that, especially a team that's sitting at 1-6 that's desperate for a win, the Giants haven't. The Giants have a good new coaching staff. They've been playing hard. They have their guys playing hard. They have bodies, they have talent. They haven't been able to put it together. They don't have an offensive line, and they have a quarterback who struggles behind a shaky offensive line. Give Daniel Jones a year or two behind a good offensive line, it could be different. I don't believe in Daniel Jones. He holds on to the ball way too long. He makes very, very piss-poor mistakes. He leads the league in turnovers at this point. He has the worst true touchdown to turnover ratio in the NFL right now by any quarterback, by any player, period. It is not good. So I'm not excited. I'm not overly excited. I kind of had to do this for 3 quarters last night, knowing that all right, Tom Brady is Tom Brady. He's going to turn it around. So I stayed with this computer to monitor and didn't pay attention to this one over here because it was stressful. It was. But at the end of the day, it is so nice to have a Tom Brady leading your team where he's not going to make a mistake that's going to bite your team in the ass and come the fourth quarter. And, Bucs fans, we all know that Jameis Winston was definitely the guy that did that. Jameis Winston about gave me a heart attack. I don't know how many times. It's good for my health that Jameis Winston's not a Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback. I'm surprised he's not a Dallas Cowboy quarterback at this point, especially with now we're talking about another week without Andy Dalton, but that is something we'll get into when we talk about this amazingly epic trade deadline where it was weak. It was weak, son. And so, but to kind of wrap this up, the Giants have pieces in place to be a good team. They just are not there at this point. They need to continue to add pieces and add guys to the offensive line. Matt Pert was even getting in there, and they did really well against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush. Again, a lot of those short plays, a lot of the intermediate routes, a lot of the underneath stuff, relying on their quicker wide receivers to get the job done. Definitely helped. The game plan was outstanding. They've had a great game plan going in to beat the Bucs, and it showed. And the Bucs basically did not have any form of a game plan. It seemed like they didn't do any counter scouting. They just kind of were all right, we're gonna go in. And our guys are going to go in and beat their guys. We're going to just run these basic stuff. But, Brady played a good game. He played a resilient game, and that's all you can ask for. That's all I will ever ask for is just give me some resilience, and I'll be happy. So, all in all, I will say that the Buccaneers had a reality check game. Every couple weeks, a good reality check is needed. I think the best thing that happened to the Bucs all year long is was the Chicago Bears loss and them kind of getting in check and ready for the Green Bay game. So now they had a slight reality check, a little hiccup as we can call it. They didn't have to even add the L column, and they probably learned their lesson. So I think that they are going to be ready to play the New Orleans Saints this upcoming weekend, and with an Antonio Brown on the roster. It's going to be a different story, man. I'm telling you, this is going to be a tough team to beat. But they aren't without their flaws, and there isn't 52 Tom Bradys on that team. There is one Tom Brady, and the rest of these people are human. Tom Brady apparently is not human. He does not make mistakes. He does not make many flaws. He does not put his team in bad, precarious situations, and other players do. It's a league full of that. So that's something we can talk. I can talk about all day. But if we do want to get into the next topic, which is the NFL trade deadline, it was a dead NFL trade deadline. Colin Alexander got moved to the New Orleans Saints. This is something I talked about even in the Prospect Encyclopedia book, and we wrote that back in June. That I thought Colin Alexander could possibly be a cap casualty trade candidate. simply for the fact that he does not have the leverage that he once had because of the fact that they have Fred Warner playing so well and Dre Greenlaw playing so well that even when Quan Alexander was out last year, this was a championship caliber defense. They paid him all this money and they front loaded it over the first 2 years. So now they have money to pay their guys. They have money to go sign. They basically have chalked it up for the season. The San Francisco 49ers know that they are not a playoff caliber team. They know when they are healthy, they are a Super Bowl caliber team, and they match up against anybody, and they can run it down anybody's throat. But you can only be injured so damn much before this really becomes an issue. And this has been the most injury-riddled team I think I have ever seen. They lost Jimmy Garoppolo. He comes back on one leg. They lose him again. They get back, they get back Raheem Mostert. He goes down. They get Jeff Wilson. He comes in, has 3 touchdown games, and then he gets hurt. It has been one thing after another for the San Francisco 49ers. So as much as it pains me to say, because I really did believe that it was before a lot of, especially the AB stuff, definitely before the Brady thing, I was really calling KC San Francisco 49ers rematch. Even after Brady got signed, and coming into the season, I still thought the Niners were going to be the team to beat. And you can only have so many players on IR, and that is really what it has come down to. So they shipped Quan Alexander over to New Orleans, who desperately needs speed at the linebacker position specifically. They drafted Zach Bond this year. They had Kiko Alonso, often injured, getting older and older by the day. Everybody is, but I think twofold for Kiko Alonso, who's been so injured throughout his career. They need somebody who can play coverage. And although Quan has had several performances where he has played well in coverage, he's picked the ball off quite a few times for both the Bucs and the 49ers, and he has been one of my favorite players. I do love Quan Alexander. But there is a huge difference between a Devin White and a Quan Alexander in pass coverage. Quan Alexander can still be a liability. Quan Alexander matches up very well athletically against a Gronk, but he's not the best in coverage. So they did get faster. They did get better. Let's be honest. They did get better. New Orleans Saints were probably one of the only teams that really took a swung for the fence. They are basically all in. This was an all-in move. They are all in for this year, knowing that they're not going to have Drew Brees, and knowing that this is definitely Drew Brees' last year, at least peak Drew Brees' last year, and this is definitely not even peak Drew Brees. This is peak Drew Brees happened like 3, 4, 5 years ago. We're getting the tail end of a amazing Hall of Fame career, but it is not what it used to be, and Drew Brees is a shell of himself. But if they can get Michael Thomas back with the way Alvin Kamara has been playing, and they add a little bit of something on defense, which they did in the Quan trade, this could help them. So there's no way they can pay him next year. I highly doubt that unless they get rid of a ton of guys. But him and Demario Davis and Zach Bond, and they even have Chase Hansen, the star from Utah a few years ago. They've got some good depth at the linebacker position now. And we'll see what happens, but the Niners are out of that contract. They freed up money. They're allowing some money to roll over for next year. And then, New Orleans is doing what they got to do. Pittsburgh went and traded for Avery Williams from the Jets. That is a great, great signing, a great move for them to basically try to plug something in and fill the massive, massive void that is Devin Bush on that defense, who went down just 2 weeks ago to a torn ACL. And the defense really hasn't seemed to skip a beat. They did get beat up quite a bit. They allowed over 400. It was like 464 yards, 465, 265 on the ground, I believe, against Baltimore. But they came up big where they had to, and they beat Baltimore. But again, the Baltimore thing, it is what it is. But Avery Williams is definitely going to help fill that void and fill that hole that they needed in the middle of that defense. And so I think that was another going all in. Seattle Seahawks getting Carlos Dunlap. Again, they have to do it. They had to pull the trigger. Carlos Dunlap hasn't been himself. But Carlos Dunlap is a physical specimen that at any point can turn it on and go get a sack. And so they needed that. They played really well against the Niners. Again, Niners were banged up. Niners have been a shell of themselves on offense. Offensively. And, sorry. I need some water. I don't have any. And I think that they just matched up well. They do have really good linebackers. That slows down the run. with them being depleted, at the wide receiver position, them being depleted with Jimmy Garoppolo not being able to throw the ball too well. There was a lot going on there and a lot of moving pieces, and it really easy to throw a wrench in the gears of the San Francisco 49ers offense when you stop the run and they don't have anybody to throw to or they don't have anybody that can throw the ball. And then Nick Mullins comes in and puts up, a bunch of yards in the fourth quarter. So it's one of those things. They're getting better. At least the Seahawks are getting better defensively. But I think that was more of a good matchup and not necessarily their defense improving drastically. They will get better. All these defenses are going to get better. All these quarterbacks are now coming back down to earth, and the defenses that were historically bad are starting to figure things out. I think the shortened preseason, the lack of preseason, definitely played its part. Desmond King to Tennessee. Tennessee is just continuously loading up on, I believe they've had some injuries in the secondary, but they are loading up on good quality. Cornerbacks. Desmond King is that. It's been so, been good at times. Has had, flash here, flash there, has been injury riddled. Somebody that the Chargers did not want to have to pay. So they're moving on from him. But honestly, this is it. This is all we got to talk about. This was the trade deadline. The Green Bay Packers didn't move. They didn't move and try to get one wide receiver. The Texans have all these wide receivers that they could possibly trade. The Miami Dolphins have all these wide receivers that they could possibly trade. I mean, there's so many pieces out there that you could go grab one. Just go grab one. Go sign one off of free agency, for Christ's sakes. There is people you can go get. And I did hear that they did contact Antonio Brown. They did want. So even more so, the Antonio Brown signing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers looks even better when it was AB not going to Seattle or AB not going to Green Bay. That AB coming to Tampa Bay also is playing offense as much as he's playing defense. But you could have went and traded for Will Fuller. Apparently they couldn't figure out, the value or the capital of it. I'm not trading anything more than a fifth or a sixth for a Will Fuller. He's often injured. I mean, he's been injured more than he's been healthier on the field. And he has not been, what he used to be in quite some time. He really is kind of another guy. He flashes here and then he doesn't show up for 2 or 3 games. And, most of the time he's on injured reserve. He's literally spent a majority of his career on injured reserve. So what are you going to do when you're you can't trade anything more than a fifth at most. I think I wouldn't even trade more than a sixth for Will Fuller. But then you have John Ross. I would do the same thing. Former first-round pick, former top 10 pick. I don't care. I'm not giving up more than a 6th or 7th-round pick for a speedster gadget wide receiver who literally has done basically nothing in his career, but had a few breakout games. And I'm back. All right. Dante Pettis got cut from San Francisco 49ers. He is in desperate need to go to a spread, open, vertical offense. He is a good, number 2 or number 3. He's a good number 3 or number 4 receiver on a team, but he will make a roster somewhere, and I just think he needs to go to a vertical, deep threat, talented quarterback type of offense that can get the ball downfield. I've said the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think I talked about that before. I think me and Roy have talked about that. I think this last offseason talked about him going to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think the Eagles could be a team where Dante Pettis could land. I think there is several teams, but the Green Bay Packers of all these teams desperately need help at that position. They don't go get it. Zach Ertz doesn't get moved. I don't understand that one. Buffalo doesn't make a move. A lot of these teams, it bugs me that. I appreciate, for me, I would have rather not sign Antonio Brown. Again, I'd rather win with him than lose against him. But with all the off-field discrepancies, with the allegations not being proven to be true or false, then I'm very, very weary of what's going to happen with the Antonio Brown thing. But I would rather my GM be proactive than to be sitting on his hands or twiddling his thumbs, as the trade deadline approaches. be all in. Be all in every year. I understand building for the future, and if you're sitting at below 500 right now and you're not in the NFC East, like, I get it. I even get it that the Cowboys are like, all right, who cares if we can win this division right now? A division title means absolutely nothing if we can't win anything else. But then again, like, they were set for, their goal was Super Bowl. They should at least attempt to make it to the playoffs. And when we're just gonna roll out Ben DiNucci and not have anything else to go along with it, and then everybody you signed this offseason is either gone, from COVID, or you've released them or cut them or whatever it is, but literally, or got hurt in Gerald McCoy's sake, but literally, like, your entire offseason has been completely blown to shreds. Like, Aldon Smith is the only spotlight on your guys' team, and as soon as he got hot, as fast as he got hot, he got cold and really hasn't shown up since. I think he's got 5 sacks on the season, and or 3 or 4 sacks on the season. He's had a good run, but Aldon Smith, I think it's 5. Aldon Smith is not. He's not going to carry this team. He's not going to be a franchise player. So, like, you could have got a piece for that. Like, he's probably not going to be a contributor next season. You could have went and got a piece for that. You could have traded that. I don't know. There's a lot of teams where it make you kind of scratch your head and go, what are you doing? You know, I do not get it. I will say this, though. That the NFL is forever changing. I mean, we literally just witnessed the Minnesota Vikings have a game. I mean, let's not even talk about the Minnesota Vikings. Let's talk about Dalvin Cook have a freaking game against the Green Bay Packers. But when the 1-5 Minnesota Vikings can beat the 5-1 Green Bay Packers and beat them handily, I mean, they did have a comeback. They did only win by 6 points. But Dalvin Cook put up how many yards? They had 171 yards on the ground. I'm sorry. I think Dalvin Cook had a combined 161 yards on the ground, another 63 in the air, and 4 total touchdowns. Jesus. You want to talk about a team that is desperate need of wide receiver help, of linebacking help, of something. Just basically, to me, the Green Bay Packers said it ain't gonna be this year. You're 5-2, you're leading your division, and you're already saying, maybe next season. Like, at least try to do something. Do something to add some pieces. I just do not understand what the thought process is to not try to go grab pieces when you are one of 4 teams realistically in the NFC that have a chance going to the Super Bowl. Seahawks, Bucs, Packers, Saints. I think of the 4 teams. Cardinals, Bears, Rams, I don't see them going to the Super Bowl. I see them being contenders and possibly winning a playoff game. But those are 4 teams right there. You have a 25% chance, basically, 20% chance of representing your conference in the Super Bowl, and you're not willing to even go get anybody. You're not willing to go give a 5th, a 6th, a 7th round pick to help out your team, to help out your quarterback at all. Shame on you. Shame on you, Green Bay. To be honest, it is. Like, I would rather be, having questionable decision making with the Bucs getting a B than doing absolutely nothing. If you're a mediocre team, I understand it. If you're a below 500 team, I understand fire selling. I understand, already playing for next season, trying to get better faster, and the only way you can do that is by being shittier now. I get it. But still, to me, what I don't know. What the Jags are doing is, the Jags are a team that they thought they have what it takes. They knew this last year that they weren't going to be a contender. They were just seeing what they had. The Jets are a historically bad team. The Jets think that Adam Gase is the reason why, or isn't the reason why they're a historically bad team. You have teams like the Texans that basically just believed in their head coach and believed in their head coach / GM to a fault. I mean, some of these teams, there's a few 2-5 teams, the Chargers, the Patriots, the Bengals, they're playing for the future, but they're a good team at 2-5. They're a team that's got pieces in place. The Denver Broncos are another one. They have pieces in place to possibly contend for this year if they could turn it around. If not, they know that they're going to have a team in the future. They stay put. Keep your, stay the course. Do not change anything. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep getting your young quarterback play. There's other teams, though, that, they're sitting right there, that are teetering between being a contender and you do nothing. I don't know. To me, I feel like the Packers missed their opportunity to try and do something. Same with the Bills. Bills need a little bit of help, and then the Ravens. The Ravens, to me, are just a team. They did put up all these yards on the Steelers this past weekend. They literally basically mopped the floor with them, in terms of driving the ball, in terms of running the ball, in terms of slowing down the Steelers' offense. They're basically 2-1, and in terms of efficiency, in terms of everything, the Ravens should have won that game. But the Ravens have something that I will call... I said this the other day on a JP show. I think Lamar Jackson is a great, great football player. I think he is a subpar quarterback. I think he is a below average quarterback. I do not think that Lamar Jackson's arm will ever single-handedly win you a game. And so if you can make Lamar Jackson a one-dimensional quarterback, if you can make him not have to use it or force him to have to stay in the pocket, force him to be a quarterback, he's not going to win games. He's never won a big game. He's undefeated against all the lesser teams, and he hasn't beat. I guess this is the first time he's played a Big Ben Steelers, but he hasn't beat a KC. He hasn't beat any of the top teams. They lose the big one and they win all the little ones. And I don't think the Ravens are a contender this year. They could have tried to go get AB. They could have tried to do something. Could have tried to trade for Julio Jones. They could have put pieces around him offensively. Finally, they're getting the run game going with J.K. Dobbins. I hate myself because I finally gave up on J.K. Dobbins in every league in fantasy, and then as soon as I do, that's when he goes off, and then I don't pick him up. And hasn't been a good year for me in fantasy. Just really, really hasn't been my year. It's never my year in fantasy. Let's be real. You can ask any other guys I've been in leagues with for quite some time. But all in all, in terms of midseason, I know we'll get into this into the the football happy hour here shortly. I'm gonna get out of here. I am rambling and I am running on, and I don't even know what I'm talking about right now. But in terms of midseason awards, we will get into that. In terms of power rankings, I'm still going to say that I have KC 1, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 2, and I have the Pittsburgh Steelers 3. I have the Seattle Seahawks sitting at 4 still, and I have the Green Bay Packers. Believe it or not, I have the Buffalo Bills sitting at 5. That's what I've got, right? I don't have that right there, but that's where it is on the screen. So appreciate you guys tuning in. This has been a fun first half of the season, and it is only going to get better. I think the Las Vegas Raiders are going to make a push in the second half of the season. They are going to start rolling. Tennessee Titans will get it right sooner or later. They will be rolling towards the end of the season too, especially with the way that they and the Raiders both play football. They are tailor-made for the second half of the season. If the Baltimore Ravens can get it right, get that run game going, they will continue to dominate and still not win games against the top teams. They are not going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I do not think they beat KC. I don't think they even beat the Buffalo Bills. But if they can get the ground game going, they might be able to turn it around. The Steelers are the team to beat right now. I do know this. I am still struggling because, again, they should have got beat. They deserved to lose that game, and somehow they won it. Kansas City Chiefs are still the best team in the NFL, bar none, no questions asked. I still actually have them taking, if I have to do and place my bet right now, I'm still saying that the Kansas City Chiefs will beat an Antonio Brown led, Mike Evans led, Chris Godwin led, Tom Brady led, Leonard Fournette led, freaking Rojo led Buccaneers team. I still think that Patty Mahomes at this point gets it done. So what are you going to do? And the Seattle Seahawks will continue to get exposed defensively. They will get better, but they aren't beating any of the top teams in the NFL or in the NFC or in the NFL anytime soon. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Those are all my hot takes. That's what I've got. I think Patty Mahomes is going to win the MVP. I do think that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs win another Super Bowl. I think that it is going to be a close call for the Buccaneers, but I don't think they will be able to get it done. It's KC, man. They're too damn good. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Blitz out.